Hi, I'm Nick Muggs, and this is All Things White Sox. This is the 18th episode, and I am so glad you can join me. This podcast will talk everything White Sox from into out of season content. I have an Instagram at All Things White Sox and a Twitter at Things Sox. So go give me a follow and reach out to me saying you listen to the podcast. In this episode, we will talk all things MLB, an update on my Sox playoff roster, a little Sox Astros preview, and my MLB playoff predictions. So to start off with all things MLB, we're going to go over the awards and who I would give them to. Starting off, the big one, MVP. Since the last time we've updated, the race has remained with the same people, but has gotten way closer. In the National League, I have Bryce Harper, outfielder for the Philadelphia Phillies. In 599 plate appearances, he batted .309 with a .429 on-base percentage, a .615 slugging, good for a 1.044 OPS. The only hitter in the MLB with an OPS over 1,000, as well as 35 home runs, 13 stolen bases, a 170 WRC plus, and 6.6 F/WAR. Harper in the NL MVP race was very close between him, Juan Soto, and Fernando Tatis Jr. I think Juan Soto is second place as he had a insane September and was one of the best hitters in all of baseball. But I think Harper still edges him in a lot of important hitting stats, and I believe he played slightly better defense. Now, all three of these guys are on non-playoff teams. Soto and the Nationals were basically out of it the whole year. Tatis and the Padres fell off very hard after the second half, and Harper and the Phillies got eliminated from the division in the last week and finished, I believe, 2 games over 500. I think you could definitely argue Soto or Tatis, but I'm just going to go with Harper. He seemed to really put that team on his back and kind of keep them alive down the stretch. Obviously, they did not win the division, but they stayed in it all year, and I think a big reason is due to Bryce Harper, and he wins his second career MVP. Now in the American League, I still have Shohei Ohtani, pitcher/DH of the Los Angeles Angels. Obviously, if you don't have Ohtani, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr., but I still think Ohtani wins the MVP. In 639 plate appearances, he had 259, a 257 batting average, a 372 OBP, a 592 slugging, and a 965 OPS. He had 46 home runs, 26 stolen bases, a 152 WRC plus, and 5.2 F/WAR. He also started 23 games and threw 130.1 innings. In that, he went 9-2 with a 10.77 K per 9, 3.04 walks per 9, a 3.18 ERA, and a 3.32 SIERA. Obviously, Vladdy's hitting stats were, I'd say, a step above Ohtani. His slash lines were, I'd say, quite a bit better, although Ohtani does have the 26 stolen bases. Home runs are basically the same. I just think with Ohtani's hitting being very close to Vladdy's, the pitching puts him over the top. And you could argue that the Angels were not a good team, and obviously the Blue Jays had a very good season. They still did not end up making the playoffs. So I still believe Shohei Ohtani wins MVP. I mean, it's just insane that he can hit and pitch that good, and hopefully one day the Angels will actually make the playoffs so we can see him and Mike Trout in the playoffs together. So now for Cy Young, I think this award might be the closest. In the National League, you have guys like Corbin Burnes, Max Scherzer, Walker Buehler, Julio Urias, and Zach Wheeler. It kind of looked like Scherzer had it locked up, and then he got lit up in his last start. So with that, I'm going to give it to Corbin Burnes of the Milwaukee Brewers. In 28 games started, through 167 innings, went 11-5, had a 2.43 ERA and a 2.61 SIERA. Despite the low inning total compared to Wheeler, he was relatively around the same of Scherzer and Urias. So I don't think you can really use that argument against him. And within that he was just absolutely dominant. All of his peripherals back him up. He had very good strikeout numbers, very good walk numbers, and he was on a very good team and was a big reason why that team, the Milwaukee Brewers, dominated all season. He led a very good pitching staff with Woodruff and Peralta behind him, and I cannot wait to see him in the postseason and for years to come as he is very young. In the American League, it was down to two guys, Garrett Cole and Robbie Ray, and they both got lit up in their last start. Despite Robbie Ray leading the MLB in strikeouts, I still am going to give it to Garrett Cole of the New York Yankees. In 30 games started, he threw 181 innings pitched, won 16-8, had a 3.23 ERA and a 2.93 SIERA. Cole had very good strikeout numbers this year. While he did have multiple rough stretches, a couple starts after the sticky stuff got banned, and his last couple starts of the year have not been very good. I still think he deserves the Cy Young. He had a great year overall, and what you could consider a down year for Garrett Cole. He was a huge part of the Yankees pitching staff and a Yankees team that made the wild card, and obviously will be the starter for the wild card game against the Boston Red Sox. But I'm going to give it to Garrett Cole. You could very much argue Robbie Ray of the Blue Jays as the Cy Young. He had a phenomenal season, but I just think Garrett Cole with his numbers deserves the Cy Young. So now for Rookie of the Year in the National League, it was kind of a runaway. It was Jonathan India, second baseman of the Cincinnati Reds. In 631 plate appearances, he batted .269, had a .376 OBP, a .459 slugging, good for an .835 OPS. He had 21 home runs, 12 stolen bases, a .122 WRC plus, and a 4F WAR. He had a very good season all year long for the Reds. He started off hot, got cold, and then the last month and a half, he was on fire. His power came up, and he was a huge part of that Reds team that kind of just fell flat towards the end of the wild card race. Also didn't help that the Cardinals won, I think, 17 in a row. But he had a great season, and he will most likely be the Reds' second baseman for years to come, as this seems very sustainable for him. In the American League, we have, I think you could argue a couple other guys, but I'm going to go with the postseason king outfielder for the Tampa Bay Rays, Randy Arozarena, and 604 plate appearances. He batted .274 with a .356 on base, a .459 slugging for a .815 OPS, had 20 homers and 20 stolen bases, a .128 WRC plus, good for 3F WAR. The other two guys are Adolis Garcia of the Rangers and Ryan Mountcastle of the Baltimore Orioles. Each had over 30 home runs. But that was kind of all they brought to the table. Randy was definitely a better hitter overall. A 2020 season, very impressive. And it's going to be a big part of that Rays lineup in the postseason. Now, for reliever of the year, both of these awards were runaways. Josh Hader of the Milwaukee Brewers in the National League. He pitched in 60 games, 58 and 2/3 innings, had 34 saves, 15.65 Ks per nine, a 1.23 ERA, and a 2.09 SIERA. I think he would have been the favorite coming into the year, and he proved it, probably having one of his best years, if not his best year. Absolute dominant year from Josh Hader in the back end of the bullpen to go along with Devin Williams and to lead that Milwaukee Brewers team to the National League Central title and a very good season. He was a huge part of it, absolute dominant as the closer. And another dominant closer in the American League of your Chicago White Sox, Liam Hendriks, 69 games pitched, 71 innings, 38 saves, 14.32 Ks per nine, 0.89 walks per nine, 2.54 ERA, and a 1.57 SIERA. Liam Hendriks probably would have been one of the favorites coming into the year. And I mean, he just had a phenomenal year. The .89 walks per nine is absolutely incredible. He shut it down for the Sox in the back end, played a huge part in their division title, and led that bullpen. Um, Hendricks absolutely blew out everyone in the American League. I will give a shout out to Raciel Iglesias of the Los Angeles Angels. He had a phenomenal season. Hendricks was just out of this world. So yeah, now relievers of the year, Josh Hader and Liam Hendricks. And one last word, I will go over manager of the year. I have Gabe Kapler in the National League. I think that's the obvious one. The Giants beat the Dodgers in the National League West, 107 wins, I believe. A lot of people this year had them probably under 500, and Gabe Kapler leads them to a 107-win season, winning the division, the number one team in all of baseball. Just a phenomenal year from the Giants. And in the American League, I'm going to go with Scott Service of the Seattle Mariners. While they did not make the playoffs, they won 90 games when no one probably would have even expected them to be over 500. They got second in the American League West, better than the Athletics, which is very surprising. And I believe, as you could tell down the last week or two, just a great clubhouse and a great atmosphere around that team. So they have a lot of young players and should be even better next year. So now I will go into my Sox playoff roster, what I think will be it. So starting at catcher, obviously Grandal will be behind the plate every game, lefty or righty. He will be in there as much as possible. Obviously, you are going to bring a backup catcher. Based on these last couple of weeks, it's been Collins in the MLB and not Zavala. So I guess you go Collins. You get a lefty pinch hitting bat. Although who knows? It could be Zavala. I'm leaning Collins. As your infielders, obviously Abreu, Hernandez, Anderson, Moncada, all those guys will make it. I'm going to mention Larry Garcia as a utility player. I could definitely see him slotting in right field. I could see him slotting in at second base. I could see him being a pinch hitter as well. And in the outfield, I have Eloy, Robert, Adam Engel, and Billy Hamilton. Those Eloy, Robert, Engel, probably a good chance to start most games. Maybe Larry gets out there and right for Engel in a couple games. Obviously, you bring Billy Hamilton, pinch runner, sub in for Eloy, late inning defense, very important piece. The only other hitters that are questionable, Brian Goodwin could possibly make the team. Solid defense, solid lefty bat. He is on IL right now and has not been activated, so I would lean against him. And then this one, I kind of skipped over him, kind of forgot, so I'm sorry about that. But Andrew Vaughn, I would suspect he does make the team, but he has kind of been MIA, it seems, these last week or two. He kind of went cold, kind of hasn't been playing. I still think you bring him as he's been a big piece this season. He is a very good righty bat, and as he's shown, can play solid or at least okay defense in the outfield. I think you bring him as at least a right-handed power hitting option off the bench to crush those lefties. So with your hitters, you have Grandal, Collins, Abreu, Hernandez, Anderson, Moncada, Eloy, Robert, Engel, Hamilton, Larry, Vaughn, and I'm sorry again, I forgot one guy. I think there's a good chance he is your primary DH versus righty batters or righty pitchers. Gavin Sheets, these last week or two, he has really poured it on at guaranteed rate. He absolutely crushes, and especially versus righties. At the very least, he's on your bench as a power hitting lefty to face the righties. I think he'll be a very good option for the Sox off the bench. That gives you 13 players, so that'll allow 13 pitchers. Obviously, Lance Lynn, Dylan Cease, Lucas Giolito are on the team, and they are going to each make a start. I would imagine Carlos Rodon is on the team and makes a start, though it is still up in the air whether he is healthy and whether he will make the roster. If he does, he will make a start. Although I can't imagine he would be anything but the Game 4 starter. So that adds 4 players. So that brings your total to 17, allowing for 9 more players Obviously, Liam Hendricks, Craig Kimbrell, Aaron Bummer, Garrett Crochet, Michael Kopech, Ryan Tapera out of the pen. That is 6 more options, or 6 more players, so that leaves you with 3 left. And I guess with that, Ryan Burr, Jose Ruiz, Ronaldo Lopez, Dallas Keuchel, I would have to guess 3 out of those 4 make it. If I had to choose, I'd probably go Keuchel, Lopez, and Ruiz. I don't think Larissa leaves Keuchel off the team. I don't think he'll get a start. I think he'll be out of the bullpen. And honestly, I don't think he'll be throwing any big innings. I think he'll be out of the bullpen as a mop-up guy, or if they're blowing out late and they don't want to waste their good guys. Same with Lopez. Same with Ruiz. Ruiz has been on the team all year, so it would make a lot of sense. 26 I have making the roster. And now I'll go through a very quick preview of the Astros. Again, they are a very solid team. They have a lot of playoff experience. The starting pitchers the Sox will most likely see. Lance McCullers will be game 1. He is a righty. He has dominated the Sox in 2 starts. Luis Garcia, the rookie, he is also a righty. Framber Valdez, the lefty. Other possible arms that could throw: Zach Greinke, very familiar name. Jake Odorizzi, a very familiar name from the Twins. And possibly even Jose Urquidy, although most likely he'll be out of the bullpen. While the names you might not be very familiar with, McCullers, Framber, and Garcia have all had phenomenal years. Again, the Sox have struggled versus Lance McCullers. They've seen him twice this year. So it'll be very interesting to see how the Sox hit off this starting pitching. The bullpen is very solid. They made 2 moves at the deadline to acquire bullpen guys: Kendall Graveman, who was the closer for the Mariners, and Yimi Garcia, who was the closer for the Marlins. So again, the names are not there in the bullpen, but they have a very solid bullpen, and these will be the names the hitters. Their catcher is most likely a split of Martin Maldonado, Jason Castro, so they don't have much offense there. First base, they have Yuli Gurriel. He won the American League batting title this year. He has been there for a long time. He has been there for this whole Astros run. At second base, you have Jose Altuve. Everyone knows that name. He has had a very good year after struggling last year. Carlos Correa at shortstop. Again, very familiar name. Another very good year from him. Alex Bregman at third. He was injured for a lot of the year and has not hit as well, but still, it's Alex Bregman. He is an MVP level player. In the outfield, I'm not exactly sure how they do the defense, but it will be some sort of I'd imagine they choose two of these 3. Kyle Tucker will 100% be out there. He was a top prospect for them, struggled coming up this year. Last year he broke out. This year he's played like an MVP. He has great power numbers, good on base, and he is a very good hitter from the left side of the plate. Then you have Michael Brantley and Yordan Alvarez. Both are not very good defenders. I'd imagine one of them will be in left, the other will be DH. Yordan Alvarez is very young. In 2019, he had a phenomenal year. 2020, he was injured, and this year he has come back and just raked. He's a lefty power hitter, but he is more than just a power hitter. He has phenomenal on-base numbers and is a big threat to the White Sox. And then you have Michael Brantley. Everyone knows him. He kills the Sox. Left side of the plate, contact hitter that can hit to the gaps. Not much home run power, but does have good on base and is just a professional hitter, as a lot of people would say. Right field will be interesting. I'm not really sure who plays right for them. I know Chris McCormick sometimes plays there. So right field and catcher are definitely their 2 offensive weaknesses, but the other 7 are all-star level players. So it'll be a very tough challenge for Sox starting pitching and bullpen against them. So now that I've gone over that, I'm going to give you my my playoff predictions. I am doing this Tuesday morning, so the wild card has not taken place. Wild card, we have the New York Yankees traveling to Fenway Park to play the Red Sox. Garrett Cole versus Nathan Eovaldi. And I have the New York Yankees. I think Garrett Cole, he has struggled his last couple starts, but I think he steps up and shoves it. The Red Sox have a very good lineup. Devers, Bogarts, Verdugo, Kiki Hernandez, Bobby Dahlbeck. Some big news coming out this morning. JD Martinez will not be playing for them tonight. He got injured in the last game of the season, so the slugger DH will not be in the Red Sox lineup tonight. I think Garrett Cole and that Yankees bullpen gets the job done. Then, in the National League wild card, you have the St. Louis Cardinals traveling to LA to play the Los Angeles Dodgers, 105 or 106 wins, a super team. And I think the Dodgers win. I know the Cardinals have been very hot, but I think the Dodgers have the hitting, and Max Scherzer is just different. He is an insane pitcher, and I think there's no way he lets the Dodgers lose that game. And they just have a ridiculous amount of weapons out of the bullpen. From Kenley Jansen, they could move Julio Urias to the bullpen. Tony Gonsolin, who was a very solid starter last year, has been in the bullpen all year. So I think the Dodgers win that. Now we will move over back to the American League and go over to the division series. The winner of the wild card, the New York Yankees, will face the number 1 seed overall in the American League, the Tampa Bay Rays, and I believe the Rays will win that series. The Rays are the Rays. You don't know the players, but they're all good. They have a very solid lineup this year. They won 100 games for a reason. They're good, and I think they win that series. The other American League division series is obviously your Chicago White Sox versus the Houston Astros. I think the Astros have a slightly better roster, but I think the Sox are hand in hand talent-wise with them. Obviously, diehard Sox fan, I'm going to be a little homer. I think the White Sox win this series. I think it'll be a very good series, but I think they will pull it out. Now over to the National League, we have the Atlanta Braves facing the Milwaukee Brewers. The Brewers do have home field advantage, and I think the Brewers 1, 2, 3 of Burns, Woodruff, Peralta gets the job done. They've been winning all year, and I think they win that. And then we have the Los Angeles Dodgers going to the San Fran Giants. The Giants won the most games of baseball. They've been winning all year, but I don't care. I think the Dodgers win that series and move on to the NLCS to face the Milwaukee Brewers. Well, I think the Dodgers win again. I think they just have so much pitching, and the hitters will get the job done. Max Muncy is out, so is Kershaw, so that will be interesting to see how they play. But I think the Dodgers just have too much talent. Their pitching matches up with the Brewers, which is the Brewers' strength. The Dodgers' offense is a tier or even 2 tiers higher than the Brewers. I think the Dodgers with that super team go to the World Series and win the NL pennant. Now, over in the American League, we have the Sox and the Rays. I know the Rays are the Rays. They know how to win. But I think the winner of that Sox-Astros series, which I have as the Sox, goes to the World Series. I think if the Astros win, they will beat the Rays. Sox win, which I believe. I think the Sox will beat the Rays. I know the Rays find your weaknesses. They know how to play you, which I think is very good versus the Sox, because when the Sox face guys that go against them, ground ball pitchers, they do struggle. But I just think this team is obviously being a little homerish, but I mean, come on. They have so much talent. I think it's just they have to win this series versus the Rays. I think they will, and I think it's going to be an awesome series to watch. And yeah, so I have the Chicago White Sox going to the World Series, winning the American League pennant, and facing in the World Series the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Camelback Ranch rivalry, Dodgers Sox. And this is where I have the Sox run ending. I believe the Los Angeles Dodgers will win the World Series. I think the pitching of the Dodgers is just as good, if not better, than the White Sox. I think they have better hitting or just equal, and they have more experience in the Sox. I think the Dodgers are just such a good team. I believe they will win the World Series over the Chicago White Sox, but hopefully that is not true. So my final World Series prediction, the Los Angeles Dodgers defeat the Chicago White Sox. So guys, that is going to do it for today's episode. Thank you so much for joining me as we talked about the awards, the Sox playoff roster, a preview on the Astros, and my playoff predictions. I cannot wait to watch these games. I will be all over Twitter. So please, let's have an awesome day on White Sox Twitter on Thursday and Friday and Sunday. I cannot wait to see the crowd on Sunday. Will not be attending. Wish I could, but will not be there. I cannot wait to watch it from my home, to see all those black towels being waved. It is going to be just so awesome. And I hope if you guys are going, you have a great time. So thank you for joining me. And here's a Sox World Series win. So have a good couple weeks, guys. Bye.